journalists have written this categorically, that this Mumbai drama was a nexus between Mossad, RAW and RSS. That is, RSS is the hardcore Hindu Zionist organizations in India. Mossad is the Israeli intelligence services, and RAW are the Indian intelligence. And we are not saying this. The Western intelligence, the Western analysts and writers, and some of the finest Indian writers like Amaresh Misra has categorically documented these events which have led to this entire episode. And we have documented everything in this dossier. And we would recommend people to visit our website, as you said, brasstacks.pk, to download the entire dossier and see what they have. We are going to discuss few points from this now.
Now, okay, we'll start off with this basic thing. An Israeli and Jewish house was also part of this drama. Let's see what is the history of this Jewish centers in criminal and terrorist activity around the world. So you know that Chabad house is where Mossad headquarters.
You see, what happened was that primarily what the Indians were trying to do was they dragged the entire world into believing that Pakistani terrorists are involved in Mumbai. Pakistan had to be dragged in because that would serve that initial purpose of diverting the attention from their own terrorist acts towards Pakistan. Now, one of the houses which was supposedly under attack was a Jewish house. It was Chabad house or Nariman house, whatever its name was. Now, one of the Western writers, his name is Wayne Madsen, and he writes on WayneMadsenReport.com.
He writes on the 29th of November.
Yes, and he categorically writes that there is a history of Chabad houses not only being used as safe houses and logistics center for Israeli intelligence, but as a storefront for criminal activity. You see, this particular house was basically a Mossad headquarters. And as the further report suggests very categorically, that if you come to the Indian media reports, Maharashtra Times, for example, one of the newspapers, which says that the terrorists which killed the police officer was speaking local Marathi language.
It says the newspaper said the terrorist who targeted ATS chief Hemant Karkare, Police Commissioner Ashok Kamte, and Encounter Specialist Vijay Saraskar was speaking Marathi fluently. And this is Maharashtra Times.
Exactly. This is an Indian newspaper.
Not a Pakistani news channel.
It's an Indian newspaper categorically saying that the terrorist was speaking local Marathi language. No Pakistani on earth can speak Marathi language.
This is a regional Indian language.
This is a regional Indian language, a very local. And Indian media is saying that. Now, what has... also, we find within this report we have documented a quotation, a statement by a very close friend of police officer Kurkure. And he says, I would like to quote it here, only hours of Kurkure's violent death, his close friend retired Colonel Rahul Gavardhan received an envelope. Kurkure called him to say he was sending him a confidential letter. This is how Times of India reported the story. He says that Kurkure, before his death, had sent a confidential letter to his dear friend. And obviously it suggested very categorically who is trying to kill him. Because his family also knew they were receiving death threats. His house was threatened to be blown up. And that's
why Kurkure's wife refused the compensation given to her by Narendra Modi.
Kurkure's wife, when Narendra Modi is the Mossad man in India. I'm not saying this. Indian analyst, Indian writer, Amaresh Misra is saying that. So when Modi, once they killed Kurkure, the police officer, they eliminated him completely. They tried to give compensation to his wife, and the wife refused. Why would she refuse? What does it mean? It very categorically means she knew very well.
Kurkure must have spoken to her.
Exactly.
She knew the whole story.
She knew very well who was threatening her husband and family, who threatened to blow up her house.
And what was the story behind Narendra Modi?
Exactly.
Obviously,
and what is the story behind the arrest of Colonel Prohit and exposing of all these Indian fascists? This whole thing is known to the world. Everybody knows what's the story behind
it. Written in the Indian newspapers, been on Indian television channels as well. Sir, there is another interesting part. Mumbai gunman of British descent, right? Now, this is something which is very mind-blowing to me. It says 8 men arrested by the Indian authorities, and amongst them were British men also. Why this information has been
You see, this is very interesting because RAW, Research and Analysis Wing, and Mossad are trying to fix up some kind of evidence against Pakistan. But in the heat of the moment, lots of information came out. Because naturally the media was there, lots of people were speaking. Even the ministers, the eyewitnesses
were trying to do too many things too quickly.
They were trying to do too many things too quickly. Primarily they wanted to create a 9/11, but idiots as they are, they could not handle it properly. And they thought the way Americans were able to stage a 9/11, and after that they would able to wage a war against Afghanistan and Iraq, Indians would be able to do the same. The objective was this, but they mishandled it. They really goofed up big time. Because the Belfast Telegraph on its website very categorically says that the Chief Minister said today, UK, that 2 gunmen arrested after the Mumbai massacre were of British descent.
Yes, sir.
And they arrested 8 people, but this news was played down by British authorities. There's Indians are saying now, they have only arrested 1 lone gunman. But in the heat of the moment, their minister acknowledged to the British Telegraph that they have captured 8 people.
8 people.
And they were from various nationalities. They carried American passports, British passports, Mauritian passports, and Malaysian passports. And this is, I'm not saying this, the British media and the Indian media is saying this.
And they've accepted this basically.
They have accepted this now.
Oh, yes, sir.
And
now, there comes the Mumbai photographer. Okay. So-called these guys containing all the Pakistani products, starting from the pickles to the matchbox to the flour, I don't know what for, making bread maybe, or the funniest was the floor mopper, and so forth. Anyway, it says, there was this photographer, it says, Mumbai photographer, I wish I had a gun, not a camera. Armed police would not fire back. It says Jeremy Taylor talks to the photographer whose picture went around the world. Now, Sebastian D'Souza, a gunman walks at this place with a gun and whatever. Go on, sir.
you see, again, what happens is, supposedly, according to the story, there were 2 gunmen who enters into a railway station and start killing people. And apparently,
initially, what the Indian media suggested, as if they were making a movie, that these people got into, they got out of that so-called the boat in which they left all the Pakistani products, so-called, and then they got into taxis. They were in a pair of 2 each, and then they paid the money to them, and then those taxis were blown. I don't know what sort of...
we'll come to that.
Yeah.
But what is happening is very categorically. You see, just look at the story, look at the scenario. 2 gunmen enter into a crowded railway station, kill and wounded over 200 people. There are hundreds of policemen around them.
Security and everything, yes, sir.
Everywhere. Nobody shoots those terrorists. Then those terrorists walk out, start walking on the road, main highway, goes to a different location, probably in a hospital or on some other place, and still the police is looking at them and nobody shoots them. And I'm not saying this again.
And you're talking about a crowded place
Crowded
in Mumbai.
place, Mumbai.
Imagine.
And these 2 men firing around start walking on foot. Now, the photographer, his name is Sebastian D'Souza,
Yep.
he categorically says, I told the police to shoot the damn men. And the police says, we cannot shoot them. We don't want to shoot them. They refuse to shoot them. They refuse to chase them. And this was something stunning, because the cameraman says, if I had a gun, I could have easily taken them out. And the police, of course, there are hundreds of them all around. Nobody shoots them. Why? What's going on? Why were they being protected? Why they were allowed to keep on carrying out this massacre? Because later on we'll know why.
So 10 words a Pakistani would never say, because, you know, we have to make our viewers understand, especially those who are watching us abroad and who do not understand the regional languages of India and Pakistan. There are certain words which was recorded in that conversation. It says julm. We say zulm.
Again, during the heat of the moment, while Indians were trying to convince the world that the Pakistani terrorists are inside, they actually aired, supposedly, a conversation between a terrorist locked up inside and the Indian media. And that conversation is on YouTube, is on net, is recorded. And on that conversation, anybody who understands Urdu or its differences with Hindi can make it out categorically very clear. The person speaking that language is speaking pure Hindi. He is not speaking Urdu.
There's a difference.
There's a difference. And his accent is Indian. His accent is not Pakistani. It's like when the Irish Republican Army used to commit acts of terror in England, the British media would report, man with the Irish accent claimed responsibility. So accents matter a lot.
Absolutely, sir.
So, especially, not just the accents, the words that you use. So this is very fascinating. Indians are trying to prove, initially, the media saying they were speaking Marathi, which is a local Indian language. Then the person who's speaking Hindi, whom they are saying is a Pakistani terrorist, no Pakistani on earth can use those words which that Hindi so-called terrorist was using. And this itself is comical. It's hilarious. In fact, it's ridiculous. So, coming to that, this is very interesting.